Dwayne Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Well, today is Monday, the day before Election Day, and our intent today is to motivate you, listener, viewer, to get out and vote to support the candidates of your choice in important elections in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Today's program features an interview with one of the candidates, the incumbent for Minneapolis City Council, Ward 3. Michael Rainville represents Ward 3 on Minneapolis City Council. He's a lifelong resident of Ward 3. He and his wife, Darcel, to whom he's been married for 35 years, live with their son, Michael Jr., or not live with, but they're proud of their son, Michael Jr., who's a history columnist for the Mill City Times and who works for the Minnesota History Center. Michael Rainville himself graduated from De La Salle High School, got a degree in marketing from St. Thomas University, and a certificate in nonprofit management from Notre Dame University. He started his career in the hospitality industry, he says, as a dishwasher, a busboy, jobs I held as well when I started my careers. He's also a bartender, and all of that before he joined the Minneapolis Convention and Visitors Association, which is called Meet Minneapolis. And there he was part of a team that successfully built the hospitality industry in Minneapolis into a 36,000 job economic engine. Councilmember Rainville serves on the Public Health and Safety Committee, the Budget Committee, the Business Inspections, Housing and Zoning Committee, and he's chair of Intergovernmental Relations Committee. And he's looking for your vote. Brother Michael, as I call him, good afternoon and welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. How you doing?
Al, thank you so much. I'm doing great. And every time you call me your brother, I'm so appreciative of that because we are all brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
We're all God's children.
Of course, of course. Let's talk about the top issues that have your attention that you are bringing to your constituents and the city. Let's cover three things in this conversation. One is affordable, deeply affordable housing. Let's talk about public safety, and let's talk about your strategy. We did this before we started to keep constituent services out front, top of mind in your service to your ward. Housing first. What's on your mind? Where are we? What do we need?
So what we need is more home ownership. There is no better way to build intergenerational wealth than owning your own home, as well as helping homeowners who maybe a house needs a little repair and not letting that house just fall apart. I think that first generational home ownership is the key to really helping out at that city level. I know the state has some funding for that as well, and that's really important to me.
What would you add? How would you do that? What would the city's role be in helping either people purchase a home, and the city have programs right now that help people maintain and take care of the homes that they're in?
Yes, both areas, Al. It always gets down to money, doesn't it? And so we have to not only make sure that funding stream comes in from the state, adds to the city funding for that home ownership and the home repair, but be proactive in that. Use local organizations to get the word out. I think in North Point, if you look at what they've done for health to help people with that disparities, the outreach that North Point does to help people understand how to keep their bodies well. Yep. Let's do that on the economic side as well.
Got it. Public safety. What are your concerns and what's in your platform?
Yeah. So yesterday we had a big vote at the city council. Mm-hmm. It was 8-5 to finally quit arguing and build a new third precinct. Now that'll be the model to have really not just a precinct, but a community safety center. And in that center, we would have organizations like, I'll use North Point again because they're so successful, mm-hmm. but mental health services. Our new commissioner of public safety, Todd Barnett, oh my gosh, is he good? We're so fortunate to have him. And he's going to be leading community outreach and listening to people. What should we have for services that will help for public safety? As we have found out the hard way, The civil unrest from the terrible, terrible murder of George Floyd showed that police are not the answer. They're not the answer at all. They're part of it, and we have to have a strong police force. But we also have to have things like Mad Dads, 21 Days of Peace. They call it Canopy as a company, which is a behavioral crisis response. So when someone has a problem, a domestic dispute, a mental health episode, we don't need to send an armed policeman there. Let's get trained professionals, and especially the Canopy is so successful. Those are people from our community who are answering those calls, and that's a big important public safety. So we've got that behind us now. We're gonna build on that and learn, and then we're gonna go to the 4th precinct and the 2nd precinct. I get along great with Councilmember Vita. Her and I, we're like this. There's a reason we sit next to each other on that dais. We are of like mind on almost everything, but we are on public safety. And I have promised her my help to get a new 4th precinct, whether it's in the current location or a different location. I would like to see that building, and this is just my opinion, but I'd like to see that become the way again. If for those of us who are around, we remember that was a big part of the community, that site. So I think infrastructure is important. Recruiting is important. We have to have our children become our police officers. It's a great job. It pays very well. And if you want to change the world, become a Minneapolis police officer.
There you go. So that's interesting because I've said the same thing about the 4th precinct building. That's on Plymouth Avenue, right next to Yurok, down the street from North Point and Estes and across from the Urban League. And it was a famous place for community youth leadership and development as the Way. And the Way site was taken and the 4th precinct moved there and built there. I would love to see that building turned over to community use and become the Way again. But the way to do that is to have another home for the 4th precinct. So what kind of discussion is there about that among your peers at the council?
Well, right now the discussion is Councilmember Vita and I. There's 2, but to get to votes, Al, you got to start with 2, right?
That's right. That's right.
Latricia and I just talked about that. She has some sites in mind. I'm not gonna mention those, but I will mention that I am with her 100%. And I do think that a totally new facility built to work the way we need it in this public safety center, not just a home for the police, but a home for other services to help people, to help heal and go forward. And then, as you say, rightfully so, return that building to the community on Plymouth Avenue.
Awesome. Let me talk about something that is the intersection in part to both public safety and affordable housing. The city was recently sued, I think, by attorneys from Dorsey representing families that say that North Side is underserved by the public housing inspector, particularly because of the impact of lead poisoning to North Side children and families. And so the question is that a problem? What's the city going to do about the perception and also the lawsuit?
Well, I can't comment on a lawsuit, but it's not just public housing they're complaining about. It's housing in general. So rental housing in many ways. Yeah. If you're a renter, you deserve to have your house fixed up to be free from mice or other bugs and have clean water. And absolutely, if we are not doing that, then we should do that at a higher level. And if we need to hire more inspectors, we need to buy them a car to get out there. Whatever we need to do as a city, we have to do that. And in particular, I suspect that most of these homes are from these big corporate landlords that own 200 homes, 300 homes. They change their name all the time as they watch their money back and forth. And we have to take a look at allowing even that should someone be taking these homeowners off the market and putting them on a rental. I remember from my last campaign learning that during that housing crisis in North Minneapolis, a home that maybe you had a $800, $900 a month payment on, you lost it, and now you're a renter, and that same home is $1,400, $1,500 a month because that extra money is going into these corporate landlords. That's no good, and they don't. I suspect that's where these repair problems are coming in.
Okay. How about your attitude and policy towards constituent services? That's a hallmark. You told me before the show that you make it a point. We're talking about your campaign right now, but you said you've been campaigning from day one, that you're always on. Talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good thing I've been married 35 years, and I just celebrated my anniversary. I love my wife more today than when I married her. But
happy anniversary.
Being tested, because I will not miss a neighborhood meeting. I will not miss anything in the community. I don't care if it's during the weeknight, Saturday, Sunday. I love to bring my wife to them. She doesn't always see that, but I took this job to work. This job is important. And I want to be out there creating that hope, showing that the government cares for people, that the city of Minneapolis cares for its residents, all residents. And to do that, you have to be present in the room. And I'm very proud of that. I work tirelessly. I outwork those younger council members. I run circles around.
That's great. Would they agree with you on that or not?
Well, if they'd come to the office so we could have the discussion, who knows?
Okay, listen. Talk about your movement. I gave a part of your bio, being a native of Ward 3, but let me have you fill in that story. Now, we got a few minutes here just to personalize Michael Rainville and even more. And as I told you, the Rainville brand itself is like gold in Hennepin County in Minneapolis and Minnesota. So take me back to Michael Rainville as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, first memories of community, and walk me through the moments that are aha moments for you discovering what it is to be Michael, first of all, and what it is to be a Rainville, number 2, and finally, all that guiding you to the arena of public service. Let's do a walk.
Yeah, so grew up in lower northeast Minneapolis by Elsie's bowling alley, and I still live across the street from Elsie's today. My first idea of community activism was in my father's, listening to my father talk to the neighbors about stopping a freeway that was going to go through Northeast. 394 would have crossed Washington in front of the Monte Carlo, gone across the river on its own separate bridge, and gone down 3rd Avenue Northeast and cut Northeast in half, just like it cut North Minneapolis in half, Rondo in half, the West Bank in half. But the neighbors fought it. It was the first freeway in the United States to stop. And looking at them, I thought, these people are crazy. This is a waste of time. I got to get the federal government. But I learned the power of working together. And that's back when it was Mayor Hofstad helped there, and Dick Miller and Lou DeMars, all those, John Darris. And then flash forward to De La Salle. And De La Salle, when I went there I graduated in the 70s, and that's when it became integrated. And I made great friends with people from North Minneapolis, the Ascension Parish, St. Austin, St. Anne, St. Bridget's. And my first experience Northeast was all white at the time. And I played ball with some great athletes back there at De La Salle, and got to know many BIPOC people and their friends. And I always carried that with me, that as I went forward into my adult life, I learned to be sensitive, to listen to people, and to embrace Black culture, and to see how that adds to the flavor that we have here in Minneapolis. And then for 35 years, as you said, I washed dishes, I swept floors, I mopped, and I just kept that building those relationships with everybody I worked with. And so after 35 years working for the Minneapolis Convention and Visitors Association, in 20, the city was a mess. I decided, what can I do? I took an early retirement, but I couldn't sit on my behind. I had to do something. So I ran for office, and I feel that, again, with my relationship with Councilmember Vita, Councilmember Goodman has been very good about mentoring me into that business committee that she's on. And here I am today, asking for your vote, asking to be reelected so I can keep moving this city forward.
Okay. What natural ally, you've mentioned Vita, what other natural allies do you have? And who do you have to work harder with? Are there relationships you want to build differently than what you have now?
Yes, we'll see what happens on Wednesday, who's going to be the new council. But regardless of who it is, there is work to be done. When I was with the Minneapolis Convention and Visitors Association, we had created 36,000 jobs in the hospitality community. We had lobbied and brought in Target Center, Target Field, the Guthrie, the U.S. Bank Stadium. Those are good jobs in those arenas. They're good jobs in the hotels. We have to bring downtown back. And so I look forward to working with my council members to help create those jobs again. We want to have public safety in mind. Jobs are the best form of public safety you could ever get. Stable housing, stable jobs, the dignity that comes with both of those. So I want to continue to work with my fellow council. Now, there is an age gap. My life experience has taught me, get along, make it personal. So I'm great at saying good morning, how you doing? Once I've got to meet some of these younger council members, I find their interest and I ask them what they did on the weekend, because we're all human beings and we vote differently. And there's a lot of screaming and yelling. Anybody who watched that meeting yesterday, it's testy, it's emotional. But at the end of the day, we walk out of there and we're human beings. And I try to find out, where do they worship? Do they worship? What makes them tick? And so I look forward to doing that even deeper. And I'm proud of the gray hair and wrinkles. And I laugh a lot because of all the mistakes I've made. For every mistake I've made, Al, I've learned my lesson. I'm a better person.
Let's talk finally just about the character that shaped the demographics of Northeast Minneapolis, how that's changed. And because it's been a big change. You've got a new community there altogether, and that new community reflects a lot of great legacy, families, institutions, resources, but also new people coming in, bringing new energy to Northeast, and Northeast is a hip place to be. Talk about the demographics, how you describe and experience Northeast Minneapolis.
Well, it wasn't always hip, Al. When I went to De La Salle, those blue bloods from the South Side made fun of me because I lived in the Northeast and it stunk over me. Well, all the industry is gone. The government did a great job. The park board, the city, Phyllis Kahn getting money from the state. The riverfront is wonderful. Boom Island Park, they're developing the parkland on the north side as well. And Northeast has always been a portal to immigration. When I was growing up, it was the Eastern Europeans. It was the Polish, some Ukrainian, some Italian, the Russians, and of course the legacy immigrants were the Germans, Irish, and French. And that's my family. We're French Canadian. Moved here in 1860 from Quebec to work in the sawmills. But now we have a new generation of immigration. We have Ecuadorians. Most of the workers in the hospitality industry are Ecuadorian, and there's many Ecuadorians. Ukraine has a great influx, as you can imagine, with the war. Kramarchuk's deli is fully staffed. They're very helpful. The Kramarchuk family just embraces the immigration, and of course we have more African Americans moving in all the time because it's a great place to raise your kids. We have great schools. And then the last immigrant population is domestic immigration from the hipsters, as you say. So as uptown becomes less desirable, Northeast Minneapolis, around that East Hennepin, 13th Avenue area, is a great place to live.
Michael Rainville, thank you so much for the interview. Good luck tomorrow in the election.
Yes, Al. And then once we're off camera, I'd like to ask you a question, please.
Certainly. Okay. I'm Al McFarlane. You listen to the Conversation with Al McFarlane, the continuation of a powerful conversation that we began last Friday at the Healing Circle. Joining me in this conversation, my colleague and friend, Dr. Oliver Williams, who's not here, is our friend, Dr. Bravada Garrett Akinsanya, but we are carrying the work forward in the Healing Circle. And this show is so cool because we're talking to Beverly Tipton Hammond and her husband, brother Drew Hammond, who are gallery owners, the Hammond Tipton Gallery, if I'm saying it the right way, in Northeast Minneapolis. Before I bring them in, let's do this message from one of our supporters and sponsors, and we'll continue our conversation. Are you or someone you know recovering financially from the COVID-19 pandemic, the lockdown, or any other reason? If so, help is available. Findhelp.org is a site to find a wide range of resources, including food, medical care, and more. The best part is based on your zip code. Visit findhelp.org, enter your zip code and the service you need. You'll get a map directing you to the organizations that can help you. Help is waiting at findhelp.org. If you need help starting anew, findhelp.org is the site for you. I'm Al McFarlane, and Dr. Oliver, man, I was just so excited to be with Beverly and Brother Drew Hammond, and we said we got to continue this conversation. They said when people come to their gallery, they don't want to leave. I said, I'm talking to you, and I don't want to leave either right now.
That's right. That's the truth. Yeah, one thing you go when you go there, you find a lot of peace.
Wow.
And the art there is healing when you go and just observe. But they're so welcoming. I think that's the other thing. Individually and collectively, they're so healing, and so but the artwork is fabulous. So, if you go there, you're going to see something that you want to purchase.
And that's awesome. I wanted to ask you both to just sit deeper in the relationship between your gift. You both described what you do as a gift, and the notion of the creator and the process of creating. You are creators, and you create. What does it have to do with our being human beings? Well, let me say this differently. I want to speak to the nature and the presence of the creator in you, and you as a reflection, as evidence of the power of creation. And I'm saying that thinking about, if I look inside me and if I look inside you, I feel like I'm looking beyond you to your parents, Papa Tom Tipton, and beyond him to his parents, and to their parents, and to their parents. And if I keep looking into the infinite, I find the creator, the beginning. And if I look the other direction into the future, my children, their children, those yet unborn, I find the same, that all that exists right here in this moment. So I'm throwing that out as my feeling at this moment. And I just want you to deal with it any way you want to. I'm passing the talking stick to Bev and Drew.
We receive it.
So for me personally, I realized, and God had spoke to me, he said that Tipton Hammond Arts really is marketplace ministry. That's what he said when I left Baltimore. Like, you weren't going to necessarily pastor per se. You were going to be in marketplace ministry. And what that means to me is you're going to be able to share Christ with people that don't believe in God, that don't necessarily go to church. They may have a spiritual life, and that's very personal, your spiritual walk and what you believe in. But I believe there have been people that have come into the gallery from all races, creeds, nationalities, and faiths. And they have stood at the corner. When you first walk in, there's a little book nook. And I wrote a book called Healed Am I? Recovery from the Trauma of Abuse. I've also written a book called Cross Points, and I've got Papa's autobiography. So first they'll step in and talk about the energy, and then they'll linger and they'll walk around and they want to talk some more. But I can count on 5 hands the times when I can see her face right now. I don't know her name. A woman who literally broke down in tears. Her friend was there with her. She was looking at art and she started crying. I said, "What's wrong?" she said, well, she told me the story of trauma and being abused by her former spouse. And I said, would it be okay if I pray with you? And she said, sure. And I'm telling you, that little book nook became an altar. I had prayed for families that I might not ever see again. I prayed for an entire family one time. It was a husband and wife and 2 kids, and they just walked in, and they broke. And that is the gift of God within. I remember from being a child, I felt like I was always the love child. I was the one who showed love to the ones that everybody else hated. I was bullied, you know. So it was this one. But somehow through that process, like you said, your gift will make room for you. Now, every time we hear that, we think that means your gift is going to propel you into the lights and you'll be like Bishop Jakes. No, that means your gift will be needed by many people. It's going to make room for you. You know, she knows how to pray, or he knows the word. But I find it a joy that people can just come in the gallery and just, if they need spiritual guidance or counseling, they can get it. And it just happens, I won't say by accident, but it happens when you least expect it, because God knows that we will be open, available, and obedient. And real quick, while we were on the break, I really felt like I wanted to share about what is healing. Healing is not covering up some pain with makeup or alcohol, or going window shopping and spending all your money, or going traveling. You got to dig in deep and let God do the x-ray, and then let him pull up the root. Because I always talk about the dandelion theory. We can pull up weeds, because my mom was a gardener. I'd pull up weeds, but if you didn't pull it up by the root, those weeds were going to grow back. And I've had trauma in my life, and I realized God took me through a process. Okay, I know you're praying, but you're not praying right. You got to pull this up from the root. You got to forgive those who abused you, whatever it was that you went through, or it won't go anywhere. And so that's a very important concept for anybody that's listening. Well, I went to the psychiatrist and I'm on these medications and it's not working. You don't have peace because the root is not up. That's the problem. And we all have to deal with our personal roots. Of course, there's fruit that comes from that. And so I'm really honored that God uses us in that way. Again, it's not something that we never know when it's going to happen. But when people want to come, it's almost like the gallery is a well. It's a well for us. From the moment we step in, we're like, wow, every time I go in, it's been what?
Every time.
Since 2020. We're so grateful for that space, but more importantly, grateful that the presence of God is there all the time. And so it's his gallery.
The Holy Writ says, before I put you in the womb, I knew you. I run with that because it kind of gives God accountability for us. And so when I mentioned earlier, when it was said in the bio that I credit God with the endowment, that's true, because I don't know how I create. That had to have been installed, if you will. I'm an unapologetic Christian, and God knowing me before putting me in the womb and endowing me with the ability to create is just like him. It's godly. So I don't have a clue how these hands are doing this. I'm just being real, because it's hard to explain what makes an artist an artist. It's an endowment. We all go through the same cycle of birth, coming out, being born, breathing, seeing. When was that art thing put in me?
Before you were born.
Before you were born, I knew you.
Yeah.
I knew you.
Yeah.
So that I just reiterating, that just gives God back all the responsibility for me. Now, like God, because that gift, though I was endowed, it's imperative that I push that gift forward.
Yeah.
And give to the next generation, to the next person, and share that undertaking of God endowment. No education, self-taught. I outside of the standard high school art class that we all sat in, I never pursued art educationally. Now, I don't say when you step into our gallery, Mr. McFarlane, that our work is the end all, but what you will see is an affinity for that gift. There's a great blessing. You look around, and like Bev said, every time we walk in, we're surprised. That doesn't wear off. So I have to acknowledge God upon entering that space. And when I leave for the day, I have to acknowledge God for that space, because I had absolutely nothing to do with that endowment. That's what he wanted me to do. That's how he's using me. That's how I'm able to pass it on.
Yeah.
This is why I'm compelled to give it to the youth, to do all of these things. It's an educator. As an educator, I'm just so compelled to do it like that. And God hasn't told me any other way to do it.
Yeah. I want to mention about Dr. Williams. You said earlier about the ancestors. When I think about both sides of my family, Tom Tipton's mother, my grandmother, Dr. Lucille Banks Robinson Miller, was a philanthropist. She had her own music school. She taught voice. She trained opera singers. She made me sing. And Papa never had a voice lesson. From age 5, she made him sing. When he opened his mouth, she said, I knew it was there. I knew it was there. And but then the blessing is on the other side. The Kellogg's are from Northwest DC. Grandma Lois and Harold Kellogg had 11 children. And out of them, the 5 sisters were a singing group. Grandpa could sing, but he had 3 jobs. So he could never really go on tour. He had to feed his family. But my mother, she became a nurse. She was the oldest girl who took care of the other 10 kids and then went to nursing school, had a beautiful coloratura soprano voice, but never really sang. My Aunt Lydia went to Howard University as an opera major. Unfortunately, she's no longer with us. She's in heaven. She had the voice of an angel. But then we have the continued legacy of Sir Kenneth Kellogg, who was a basso with the San Francisco Opera. And when he sings, it is literally an earthquake. The first time I heard him sing, I had him come to Johns Hopkins, where I used to work at the School of Public Health, for Christmas, and you could hear a pin drop. I mean, it's just awesome what he does. They created a opera for him called Blue, about a black cop whose son was killed by a white cop. And that's gone all over the country and around the world. So we get this from legacy. We get this from our ancestors. We get these mantles, and it's up to us to say, okay, we're going to use them properly. We're going to pick them up. You can't use it unless you pick it up. And so that's nothing that we can take credit for, but we must be respectful of that which we have inherited from our ancestors.
And you mentioned something earlier regarding the future. So what legacy Bev and I would leave? Maybe earlier this year, I had the privilege and the honor to sit down with the esteemed artist, Fatu Jones. Fatu was talking to me about legacy, and he asked me about, what was our
art? Who's going to inherit our art? Do we have somebody in the will? Right. Yeah.
And I ran with that, and now we do, because it's going to be here after we're. It's going to impact after we're gone. An art collector of ours in Chicago, she wrote that very, very thought about how her art is going to be here after all of the artists as well as herself are gone.
Yeah.
And it made me think about that kind of longevity because, we look at artwork like the Mona Lisa and so forth, and it's still here. This is something that was done centuries ago. But so we got right on top of that. That was almost out of everything that Seitu shared with me. That probably was the most prominent because that really, really resonated. And so that's where you got that. That's where we are in terms of that. So we're just, I feel like I'm just passing through in this journey, doing what I'm supposed to do in the realm of art and making sure that it's secured tomorrow.
I got one more piece I want to show. Cooper, I'll put this piece on the screen and give us some commentary on this. Beautiful.
Oh, I would call this my evolution as an artist because
I love it.
I'm evolving, and I saw a picture of these two Sudanese women, and I took my time. I've been working about a week, and I love Africa. I've been to Kenya twice, and every time I go there, I don't want to leave because I'm home. I'm home, and I just feel like, again, the mantle is unfurling, maybe, and I'm taking more time. I learned a lot from Drew, but I'm on my own exploration, and honoring African women and African American women is what I'm doing in this piece, and I call it Sudanese Sisters, and I just finished it on yesterday. So I'm really excited about them. And there's a famous artist, African American artist named Della Wells. She's our Facebook friend, and her and Drew connect sometimes. She's an incredible collage artist, and she highlighted my piece on her page. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was in awe. She congratulated me on my piece. And so I'm growing, and I'm finding new ways to create, and I'm enjoying the journey.
What Bev is saying regarding Della, if Della likes something that you do,
you somebody.
He's an awesome collage artist from Wisconsin. So
two things for me. One is I'm going to come by and see which of your pieces talk to me, but I would love for you to pick a piece each that you think I should have based on our conversation. And let's see if that's a piece that I'd like to buy. I'm going to buy some work from you. That's what I know already. I'll be doing business with you and purchasing some of your art to display, both in my home and at the Marcus Garvey House, which is like a gallery itself. You come by and see our shop. Our office is just loaded. But I got Seitu's pieces there, and I have Takumba's pieces there, and Charles Caldwell's pieces there, and other pieces. Rex Mirapiri, his pieces are there, and so you'll love it. And pieces that I acquired in Ghana, directly sculptures that I bought from the artist in a brewery up in the mountains in Ghana. But listen, so think about me and what you think you would want me to have based on our conversation, and then I'm going to, outside of getting those things, come to the shop and see what I want to buy. Based on what I have learned and what I see when I discover the feeling of being in your place. Wow. And I was going to say one more thing before it's time to close out. I want to close with Dr. Oliver, though, having him do a summation here. But there was one more idea that I want to talk about. Let me think of what it was. It's slipping away. So, Dr. Oliver, I want to pass the talking stick to you. And if you would, you could summarize our experience today and invite people to come back to the next Healing Circle.
Well, what I got from today was if you want to find a place of peace and comfort and healing, you can do it through the arts. And one place to be able to do it at the Tipton Hammond Art Studio. And it's in the Northrop King Building. What's the address?
1500 Jackson Street Northeast.
Yep.
Studio number 261.
On the second floor.
Yeah.
And if you go there, you'll be happy you did. and you'll get something from it. The atmosphere is very peaceful, but you'll see a lot of work that you'll like too. And I also appreciated Brother Jeremiah too.
What a good conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was interesting to me too is that there was a synergy because he was a former artist as well.
He's still an artist, but that's what his career was. Yeah, his day job was art before.
Yeah, and so there's something that made a connection where you're trying to heal and do good for people, for goodness sake.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember when I was going to talk about two things. One is I want to encourage people to buy art from Black artists. And art is an investment in your own peace and in your own healing. And it's a reminder. It keeps you focused and keeps your space pointing you in the right direction as an artist. So I want to invite people to always purchase art from producers, curators, creators in our community. And then I was going to say, I think we lost our guest here. Maybe a connection went bad, but I wanted to tell them, I want to connect them to our people at the Narrative, Nubia. There, you're back, Nell. I wanted to connect you all. Have you all heard of Narrative or Nubia? It's an online community.
Karen Hunter.
Are you on that at all?
Yes.
Are you checking it out?
Karen
I think
Hunter,
that's a wonderful place. I'm there a lot. This interview will be on there as well. And so I think what that community is doing to connect us globally is phenomenal. So as often as I can, I mention that. Hopefully that somebody listening or viewing will be curious and go check it out and see how to elevate. The principle is the exploration of an Africana way of knowing. And that is a method that allows us to go deep within and discover the centrality of existence with ourselves as the source,
right?
And as the reflection of the creator, the instrument of the creator. So that's where I was coming from with that line of questioning. With that, I want to say thank you so much, Beverly Tipton Hammond. Thank you, Brother Drew Hammond. Thank you, Dr. Oliver Williams. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.
Hello, everyone. I'm W.D. Foster Graham, and I'll be your host today for the Conversations of Al McFarlane. We here at Inside News bring everything as pertinent to the Black community in the U.S. and worldwide. We are live and direct from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And today, it is my pleasure to introduce a special guest for Inside News. His name is Dwayne Vernon. And Dwayne is originally from Portsmouth, Virginia. He is also living in the DC area. He is served in the U.S. Navy. He is the author of books such as Deception, Lies, and Truth, My Man, My Boys, Roman, and The Master's Plan. And he is also a screenwriter. So look, that being said, we heartily welcome Dwayne Vernon. Dwayne?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Oh, great. How about yourself?
I can't complain. I can't complain at all.
I'm very excited to have you on the show because when it comes to authors and wordsmiths, representation matters.
That it does.
So, Dwayne, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, actually, I'm from Portsmouth, Virginia, by way of Oklahoma City. I live in the DC metro area.
Mm-hmm.
Served 6 years in the U.S. Navy back in the 80s. I worked for the federal service for 28 years, federal government 28 years, and just about to turn 62. And
all right,
enjoying my retirement.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I've written about 7 novels and a couple of short films, and now I'm in the process of dabbling in screenwriting, and I finished like 3 or 4 films.
Great. Hey, tell me something about them.
Well, a lot of it really goes behind my purpose for writing, and that's to break stereotypes about Black gay men. So I always put my characters in positions where you don't normally see gay men. just to talk about one of the books is Counterpunch. He's like a Muhammad Ali, welterweight champion of the world, but nobody knows he's gay. He's not DL, but he's more afraid of losing his career and his fans. So he's trying to find love and trying to find the two where they can actually coexist. So that was my latest one. And before that one, The Master's Plan, which we're going to talk about today.
Oh, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And so with The Master's Plan,
Mm-hmm.
what is something that inspired you to write this particular story?
Yeah. Well, the Master's Plan was really interesting. I think they was having a Roots series I was watching one night,
Mhm.
and I was like, I know that at some given point in time, being gay had to exist. I probably didn't know what it was, but it had to exist, and there was nothing out there that really talked about same gender loving during slavery. So here in Maryland, you can do the Underground Railroad tour. So I did the Underground Railroad tour, got to see plantation houses and got a chance to see the houses where the slaves lived.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, it's time for something to be written about. So I put pen to paper, and The Master's Plan was born.
Awesome. When I was reading The Master's Plan, I looked like the title has a double meaning to it. Could you expound on that?
Yeah. Well, when you read The Master's Plan, you're really thinking about it. It's about the master, the slave owners. But at the very end, you find out it's not their plan, it's the master's plan. But you would have to read the book throughout the entirety to understand the difference between, how people misconstrue the title, get a misconception of the title.
Ah, I got
I love that twist. And I always end all my books with the title of the book.
Awesome. Definitely awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and as you were talking about as a history, so far as us as LGBT persons,
Mm-hmm.
and I kept thinking about the fact that given we have a 21st century perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're going to have to going back into remembering that we've always been there.
Mm-hmm.
And so reaching back, were there any other resources you could tap into as you wrote and brought about the characters in your book?
Well, it's really funny. And if you're a writer, and I'm quite sure you can relate to this, doing my research and doing the Underground Railroad tour and just reading old slave novels and things of that sort. As funny as it sounds, or as crazy as it sounds, when you start writing a novel, your characters kind of guide you. They literally talk to you throughout the day, in the middle of the night, while you sleep. And it's almost like they tell you their journeys. So, a lot of that is where, my ideas actually have come from. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I can relate to that because as an author myself, my characters at some point take on a life of their own.
Right. Right.
Now, I know later on, I'd like to hear an excerpt from The Master's Plan because I found it so intriguing, all these different plot twists going in their strive for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what is something that, or say, drove you to write?
Well, I was having a conversation with a coworker when I was younger. Well, yeah, a little younger. And one of the things that she said to me, it was about the choice of being gay or straight. And I was trying to explain to her that it's not a choice. and that the choice doesn't come about until you accept who you are and you act on it. So my first book, My Man, My Boys, I wanted to write a story to put people inside my head so they can understand that, trying to live in this country as a Black gay man is hard, because people are afraid of what they don't understand. And then you have the Black church and they preach against it, and which that's how homophobia comes out. So I wanted to write stories as well where I can put a person inside my head for my first novel to let them know not the struggles that a Black man goes through, gay man goes through, as well as explaining it to them so they can see that it's not a choice. We didn't flip a coin and decide we want to sleep with the same gender. It was just something that just comes natural, so.
I hear you, Dwayne. Now, when I'm writing, I think about the terms change the narrative, change the perception.
Right.
Now, you've written 7 novels. Now, how, in your opinion, has what you've done be able to change that narrative?
Well, definitely in the first book, My Man, My Boys, I wrote back in 98, 99, or maybe early 2000 when it was released. It changed the narrative for a lot of, here's an example. I went to a book, I did a book signing at this, when they had bookstores, when you can go to, was it Caribou Books or Barnes and Nobles back then. And so there was a young lady that came in and she wanted to support me. So she bought one of my books, and she asked me, how can I get in contact with you after I would like to talk to you after I read the book or whatever. And when she read My Man, My Boys, she explained to me that her brother was gay and that the book helped her to understand a little bit more about her, which helped her relationship with him. So even if it's one person, it made a difference. So, and again, as I mentioned earlier, all my books about putting gay men in the positions that you don't normally see them in, like My Man, My Boys was the first book. I think Elan Harris touched on it a little bit. One of my characters was he was an NFL player. He was in the league and trying to have a career and being in a loving relationship, how he could balance the two so they wouldn't interfere with each other, or the fear that he actually went through of worrying about whether people will find out, and if so, what would happen.
I'm well understood, because it comes to, we make our changes one person at a time, one conversation at a time.
Yeah.
As independent authors, what do you see as an independent author's role in creating that change? Because most of the books out now, especially when it comes to African Americans, have been as independent authors. So, and I've had the honor of reviewing some amazing books, including yours, as well as other LGBT authors I've been on the show. So again, where would you see, as independent authors, our part in creating that change going forward?
Well, this goes all the way back to my reason for writing, and that is, as an independent author, you have to break the stereotypes. You have to break the stereotypes. And I think even when it comes to a lot of independent authors, their books are inundated with so much sex that you lose the story. And people think that's what it's all about, and it's not. So as independent authors, we need to break those stereotypes. I feel that's what my job is to do when it comes to my writing. I guess we all have our own reasoning for doing or writing what we write and how we write it. But I like intimacy. I like showing how relationships develop, you know. And it's not about meeting at a club or going to a bathhouse or, you know, and I don't write a lot about the stereotypical stuff. I mean, every gay man doesn't have AIDS, you know, or dying from AIDS, and it's like, as independent authors, we cannot reinforce the stereotypes. It is our job to break them, and that's what drives me, is to break the stereotype. Because I have a lot of female followers that read my novels, and it's so funny because I met with this all women book club, and the first mistake is they introduced me as a gay author. I'm like, no, I'm an author that happens to write gay stories, you know. Because if you got a straight author, you wouldn't say, oh, he's a straight author. But give me the same respect. I'm an author that write stories about gay, I have gay characters. And the funny thing is, when women read my type of novels, they see men in these novels that they haven't seen before. So then it becomes questions. So this is my opportunity to explain to them and teach them. These are not DL men. These are just masculine men that you just don't, you may not think that they're gay, and they're happy with who they are, and they're in loving relationships, you know, and they're just like a regular guy. So they're seeing gay men, a side of gay men that they didn't know existed. So again, as independent authors, it's our job to educate. And why not educate in a great story or a great movie or a great film?
That is so true. I mean, that is so true. So Dwayne, what is in your future so far as your writing and your screenwriting coming up?
Well, my goal is to one day see one of my novels on the big screen or on TV. But you know, if you don't have financial backing and if you don't know anybody, you know, it's kind of hard. But you know, you just can't let that stop you. So my goal and my dream is, if only just one novel to become a film or a television series to come out, is my challenge and my goal. That's my plan.
Awesome. And that all important question for our viewers today: where can our readers find and purchase your work?
Well, for Kindle versions are on Amazon, of course. And my novels, DwayneVernon.com, or they can follow me on Facebook and reach out to me on Facebook, and we can work out a way to get them novels as well. Yeah.
Okay. And in closing, are there any final words or remarks to our readers or our audience?
Just that if you have goals, do not let anything get in your way, and just do your best and break the stereotypes. Amen. Continue to break the stereotypes, and not only that, help if you're older in the community, help uplift the younger generation. You know, reach out, give them guidance, and help them. You know, help them see that they are not a mistake.
Amen. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Dwayne, it has just been a pleasure
Mhm.
having you here on the show, and I thank you for your gift that you are as an author and setting out break those stereotypes and to say bringing authentic characters in film as well as in books.
Into the light.
Into the light. Yes,
Into the light.
yes, indeed. This is W.D. Foster Graham, and I am the host, your host today for Insight News. I thank our guest author, Dwayne Vernon, and for those of you out there, subscribe to our link and our live streaming video. I say we have guest author segments on Thursdays. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well, peace.